Comrade Rashed Khan Menon MP, our beloved leader, President of the Workers' Party of Bangladesh, will preside over the webinar, and our Revolutionary General Secretary, Comrade Fazle Badsha, will deliver the keynote speech. We are delighted to announce that some outstanding communist leaders of South Asia will be honorable panel speakers. Comrade Sitaram Yechury, General Secretary of the Communist Party of India, Marxist. Comrade Madhav Kumar, Nepal, Senior Leader of the Central Committee of Nepal Communist Party and former Prime Minister of Nepal. Comrade D.C. Raja Collure, Chairman, the Communist Party of Sri Lanka. Comrade Dr. Ayaz Mohammad, Member of the International Department, Communist Party of Pakistan. And Comrade Z. Devarajan, Secretary, Central Committee and Incharge for International Affairs, All India Forward Bloc. Respected members of the Politburo and Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Bangladesh, and comrades from different parts of the country, and the respected journalists from different media, welcome to you all. On behalf of the Central Committee, I want to convey our revolutionary greetings to you all. Now, I earnestly request Comrade Rashed Khan Menon, MP, to commence the webinar with his welcome speech. Comrade Rashed Khan Menon.
Thank you, Dr.Susanta. Dear comrades, good morning, Shubho Sakal. We are here today in this webinar on the occasion of the 100 years of Communist Party of India. We in Bangladesh are inheritors of this communist movement and take pride in the glorious past and also the determined struggle of the communists at present in all the countries of subcontinent which was once undivided. The other countries, Nepal and Sri Lanka, have their own history of communist movement, but the struggle they had to wage and still are waging is the same, and that is keeping the imperialists at bay so that they don't impair our independence and sovereignty, and also not dictate what should be our path for running our own affairs and for emancipating our people from poverty, illiteracy, gender discrimination, and whatever which hinders the path of peace, progress, and our stride for exploitation-free society. We have also the same history of fighting communalism and religious fundamentalism, which now has taken the form of religious militancy, indulging in all sorts of terrorist activities in most of our countries. The communist movement of India, as well as of South Asia, aimed at establishing socialism, and in this struggle organized the working class and the peasantry, and all through this time they were also the pioneer in achieving independence from colonial rule. The struggle for freeing the people from the clutch of class exploitation and to establish socialism in these countries are still on. But the old legacy of imperialist intervention, communal division, rise of religious fundamentalism, and incorporation of new laws to suppress the workers and peasants, and are standing in our way to fulfill the dream of our predecessors who struggled so courageously and making such great sacrifices to achieve their aim. At the outset of this webinar, I therefore, on behalf of myself and on behalf of the Workers' Party of Central Committee of the Workers' Party of Bangladesh and all members of Workers' Party of Bangladesh offer our heartfelt respect for those comrades who laid down their lives and who suffered so much and took the brunt of all the repression of the ruling junta in different countries and in different points of history. Having said that, I would like to draw the attention of the respected comrades to the facts of recent imperialist maneuvers in South Asia to implement their Indo-Pacific strategy, forcing the countries to be their partner and thereby jeopardizing not only the interests of the people of this country, but also the peace and stability of this area. They are also pushing in other areas also in the sphere of economy, in the sphere of supporting anti-people rulers. The rise of communalism and religious fundamentalism in each of these countries impacts on others and thus divide our people, our struggle, and our aim to build a secular, democratic South Asia leading to establishment of socialism in these countries. I would therefore like to request our comrades to elaborate on how we can jointly fight this menace together. As countries, we have different perspectives to reach our goals in our own countries. But when the enemy is common, we can build a common strategy to fight, uniting our struggles. I think I'm not asking too much. Rather, it is the necessity of time. I welcome you, all comrades, who in this pandemic time, despite their busy schedule, have joined in this webinar. I hope that information help us all in understanding the situation around us and show way for our common struggle in fighting imperialism, communalism, and for a secular, democratic South Asia. I'm sad to tell you that Comrade Ali Ahmad Enamul Haq Imran, who made this webinar possible, had to go through two heart stenting in this period and is now recovering well. He is there with us, but he can't in that way participate. The Comrade Susanta Das, Politburo member of our Central Committee, who is a former Vice Chancellor, would conduct this whole webinar, and he will ask you to comment on our issues. And Comrade Fazle and Badsha, the Revolutionary General Secretary of our party, will make the keynote speech. Now the webinar starts. I hand it over to Comrade Susanta Das.
Thank you, Comrade Rashed Khan Menon, for your welcome speech. Now I request Comrade Fazle Badsha, General Secretary of our party, to deliver its keynote speech. Before that, I like to announce that his full speech, you will have it through your emails and otherwise. He will only mention the salient parts. I welcome Comrade Fazle Badsha to deliver its speech. Comrade Fazle Badsha.
Comrade, respected President, Rashed Khan Menon, honorable panel speakers, Comrade Sitaram Yechury, General Secretary, CPIM, Comrade Madhav Kumar Nepal, Senior Leader, Central Committee of Nepal Communist Party and former Prime Minister, Comrade Raja Collure, Communist Party of Srilanka, Comrade Devarajan, Secretary, Central Committee and Incharge for International Affairs, All India Forward Bloc, Comrade Dr. Ayaz Mohammad from International Department, Communist Party of Pakistan, and all members of the Politburo and Central Committee of Workers' Party of Bangladesh and all participant comrades. I want to convey my heartfelt revolutionary greetings and thanks to you all for joining our auspicious webinar on this historic event. It is a excellent meeting because in the adverse situation we are here. We have already presented a brief but vivid document before you. I want to mention only some salient aspects of that very briefly. Comrades, the people of whole world, the whole mankind are passing through a critical juncture due to the global outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. No country is out of this danger, especially the working people all over the world are going through a extreme suffering. We are experiencing the cruel behavior of the ruling exploiting class and systematic inherent crisis and failure of capitalism to combat this colossal pandemic. We communists and all other pro-people forces are trying to do our best to stand by the people in their distress. Comrades, we are now here to commemorate and hundreds of communist movement of India, which we all inherit. We are part of this history, bears legacy and glory and success and its failure. Now today, it is a time to take a privilege to convey heartfelt revolutionary tribute to thousands and thousands of revolutionaries who laid down their lives and sacrificed a lot through long century for the cause of emancipation from British colonial imperialist rule. All kinds of exploitation, brutal training and suppression, and with a view to achieve a egalitarian socialist society. Comrade, we know the communist movement of India and caused different political phases during the 100 years of historical period. In the first phase, there was a common struggle against imperialist colonial rule. The colonial forces and other exploiting classes for nearly 3 decades up to 1947. During the period, the communists went through violent fight against British colonial rule. The communal forces impeded by British ruler and their lickers and other exploiting classes. Communists pioneered the demand for independence. Communists fought against communalism through mass struggle and anti-communal campaign, built up mass and class struggle. The Telangana People's Revolt, the Tevaga movement, Tanka movement, and Nankar movement, Punnapara and Bhayalar struggle, Tripura tribal struggle, Surma Valley struggle, revolt of the Wardis, Maharashtra, and the Royal Indian Navy mutiny, and many other struggle all over India made the history for Indian working class peasants and communist revolutionaries depicted, depicted the contribution against the struggle of British imperialist colonial rule. Comrades, the British imperialism quite subcontinent in August 1947 handed over the power to Congress in India and to Muslim League in Pakistan. New phase has begun with the handover of power to the ruling classes of India and Pakistan. The stage of national united front directed against a foreign imperialist rule was over. The second phase started after 1947. In this phase, the communist movement of India started separately in the new emerged countries, new conditions. Indian Communist Party was formed and formally divided, one in India and another in Pakistan. The communist forces in Sri Lanka, Nepal also started their journey in their concrete context of new situation. Leaders of the respected countries are here, and I am sure they will present their own valuable experience. I want to take the privilege of giving a brief history of our experience. Comrades, after the end of the British colonial rule in 1947, that they did in East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, also entered into some new different political conditions than West Pakistan. A new form and content of struggle and movement evolved. In East Pakistan, most of the senior comrades were taken to custody or forced to leave the country to India. The leadership was replaced by the younger generation, mostly coming from Muslim community who were not much experienced. Comrades, but even in the difficult situation, the communists continued to attract the new generation of Pakistan who got dismayed within a year on the question of Bangla as state language of Pakistan and fully the provincial autonomy. The communists played an important role in this political struggle. They were pioneers in the demanding the full autonomy of East Pakistan and organized anti-imperialist movement against Pak American military tax. We know that Seattle Centro Pact. In 1996, Pakistan Communist Party wanted to act as separately entity and central committee was formed and decision was taken to run the party activity accordingly. But soon after martial law was declared in 1958, all political activity was banned. Some party leaders started working underground, and some worked remaining within the NAP, National Army Party. That National Army Party was also uh, linked with West Pakistan, and we know that the leader Wali Khan was with that National Army Party. The 1960 was the time of the resurgence of communist movement in East Pakistan. So the heroic anti-martial law student movement, movement and movement against riot, a huge number of young people was attacked, attracted to communist movement and party. And but in 1962, the international communist movement was divided into two separate camps. Despite despite this difficult situation, the communists took pioneer role in the up upsurge of 1969 through against Ayub regime and regime was overthrown. That was the great struggle. Comrades, the third phase started after emergence of Bangladesh. Uh, the Liberation War of Bangladesh in 1971 is a history pivotal political incidents in South Asia. Liberation struggle of Bangladesh in 1971 was an ordeal for the communist movement of this region. But unfortunately for the communists, the leaders of the national movement for autonomy who are in that struggle, which soon turned into a movement of self-determination and finally for independence slipped out of their hands due to wrong tactics in political line due to uh, their business in debate in international communist movement. But still, we can claim the communists of our country and forces played a crucial role in 9 months of armed struggle. Huge uh, uh, cadres and comrades in our Bangladesh liberation struggle. They played a heroic role and 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 uh, they played a instance of arms struggle. Comrades, the situation in new independent Bangladesh quickly changed. A new constitution was adopted in 1972 on four state principles of democracy, socialism, nationalism, and secularism. But the country soon fell into the apathy of corruption, huge corruption, loot, smuggling, nepotism, and partisanship. The, the character of the pro-capitalist political activities, pro-capital political activities. The whole condition made a fertile, fertile bed for the imperialist forces, uh, especially for US intervened. To restore their lost ground, backed and supported by CIA and Pakistan, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was assassinated on 15th August 1975. After assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman on 15th August 1975, as a matter of fact, the rehabilitation of anti-liberation rightist forces started. The country went through a series of military coup and counter coup through which Ziaur Rahman consolidated his power. As martial law administration, he amended the constitution and threw away the principles of secularism and started to religion pro-religion constitution. They started to make this constitution pro-religion. The process was started, and another military ruler, General Ershad, the in the decade of 80 to embed the Islam as state religion in the constitution, and actually this is the starting of uh, militant Islamic pro-Islamic activities in Bangladesh. The decade of 80 was a decade of struggle against a short military rule through a process of united struggle of student, workers, middle class, and democratic forces for a decade. The Shah military rule was up to 1990. Many students, youths laid down their lives in fighting the religious terrorist militant forces during this period after achieving in power in 2001. BNP Jamaat led government. After 2001, BNP and Jamaat patronized the religious terrorist forces, and they made the joint government after 2001. The terrorist forces suffocated the democratic process. We took lead to fight these forces and to organize broadest possible democratic movement against the force with all limitation and process is ongoing. In spite of all setback, the communist forces in Bangladesh participated and organized all mass and class struggle during this long period with all historic effort and sacrifice. Comrades, the imperialist encroachment in all countries of South Asia, both economically, politically, and militarily, has become a constant threat for peace and security. For economy, the emancipation of the people of these countries are the steep rise of communalism and religious militancy in the common danger of each of these countries too. The task before the communists of all countries of this region, especially South Asia, while waging their own struggle, it is urgent for the all communist and led forces of the South Asia to build a common platform to wage a struggle together on the question of imperialist design, communalism, and religious fundamentalism. Comrades, we need to build up cooperation, consideration, not only among the communist forces, but to make consolidation also amongst the all forces of people, media, intellectual, civil society, civil movements. We need to build a broadest possible secular democratic united force against global imperialist onslaught and their natural allies within different countries, the communal rightist forces. Comrade, the 100 years of struggle we shared in the experience. We are sharing our experience. We have to share our experience and in the front of us, the path, the dream still to follow, to achieve. Long live communist movement, long live international solidarity, workers of world of the world unite. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Comrade Fazle and Badsha, for delivering excellent speech. Now, I want to invite Comrade Dr. Ayaz Mohammad, member of the International Department, Communist Party of Pakistan. Welcome, Comrade.
Thank you.
I invite you to deliver your speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Comrade Badsha. On behalf of the Communist Party of Pakistan, first of all, I will say thank you to our Bangladeshi comrades for organizing this event and giving us the opportunity to celebrate together this historic journey. As you outlined in your speech, and I'm not going to repeat that we have a common history, a common journey, and we are proud that not only we were part of the Indian communist movement, but at the same time and equally that we also shared part of our journey together. As you already mentioned, that the party was established in 1948, and from very beginning, it has to work in not favorable conditions. Comrade Sajjad Zahir had to work from the beginning as underground as an arrest warrant was issued against him. The initial few years, our work was mostly focused on organizing the workers and peasant movement to try to get our country, or we'll say the newly born country, from the influence of the imperialism, and in reality to have a real secular democracy in our countries. In that period, a lot of trade unions, organizations in West Pakistan were formed from shipping corporation to the transport rickshaw unions. And at the same time, the pheasant committees in different parts of the country, particularly data in Sindh and in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, or then the Northwest Frontier Province, were also organized. Our first hard time come when there was a power struggle in the Pakistan military, when General Ayub was appointed as the commander-in-chief, and General Akbar Khan, who was senior to him, along with some other military officers who were lenient towards the Soviet Union and who were anti-imperialist, they offered the party that they can overthrow the government and will hand over the power to the party. The reason I'm mentioning this particular fact is that there is a lot of blames over the party in that period. And I'm quoting from the book of Comrade Hossain, who was then the member of the Politburo, who has written that the Central Committee considered and rejected. The party didn't want the military to take the power. And on the other hand, these military officers were also calling that we should fight a war over Kashmir, and that was, in the party opinion, not the correct path, as it will put our newly born country in a state of war with India for all the time. As you also mentioned, that at that stage, our work was mostly to avoid or to try to stop our new country to join the American bloc. Unfortunately, that occasion when Comrade Sajjad Zahir was meeting, they were arrested along with the military officials. And the Rawalpindi conspiracy case, which lead that on one side, the military gets rid of the officers who were against joining the American bloc. Also put many of our comrades in the prisons.
Please unmute.
Yeah, yes, it is unmute, sir. So that the military could join the lobby the American lobby. I don't want to go into the details of each and our actions, but will just say, of course, our history is together. That the Ayub rule was the worst time for the party. The party was hard hit, and as you also mentioned in your speech, that our senior comrades were put in the prison. The unexperienced comrades has to take the lead. And during the year of 1960, when after the Ayub martial law was imposed, Comrade Nasser Hassan was tortured to death. And in reality, that was the first extrajudicial murder. Even today, we don't know where he is buried. In 1954, when the party was banned, the party has to work through the fronts. Before working within the NAP, we were working in Azad Pakistan party. And the main strategy was to get rid of the imperialist influence, get independence from the journals and military establishment, feudalism, and establishing a secure democracy. Even during the hard period when the party was working through or within these fronts, the party managed to play a vital role when there was a movement against Ayub regime. And it was through when the Democratic Action Committee was making the calls that it was the party who activated its trade unions and the peasants' committees. When they joined, that the movement became strong enough to force Ayub to leave the government. Of course, one thing which we are not talking about, we know the history, and you have already mentioned about the independence of Bangladesh and the circumstances which led to that the establishment has realized that the left, especially the peasants and the workers, they are a force, and they brought Bhutto, who was using the slogans of socialism to play his role. And as it is on the record that Awami League has won the election, but the power was not handed over. And instead, it led to the use of force. And we are also proud that we were the only party, leftist party, who openly criticized the use of force in then East Pakistan. Bhutto was more brutal than most of the military rulers were in the first few months of his civilian martial law and curfews, hundreds of our workers in Karachi particularly were brutally killed. His attitude towards communist change when he was having problems with the Americans. And that was again a time when the party could work. And that was one of the reasons that during the movement against the Bhutto, the party did change its position and supports the Bhutto because in the party opinion, keeping the Bhutto was to defeat the US and Pakistani journals. Anyhow, martial law was imposed. General Zia, which again was as worse, if not more, than Ayub, came into power. The party was again very hardly hit. I'm quite sure the comrades will remember that Comrade Nazir Abbasi was tortured to death. The famous Jamsaki case was also registered during that time. The imperialists who were always using the weapon of democracy in these countries was the first time we saw that they started using the religious fundamentalism and the religious forces. At that time, it was their interest as there was, was a war which was fought in Afghanistan on the name of the religion. Even the post-Zia era, we are facing in Pakistan the fanatic Islamist, fundamentalist in the party, and particularly the left, is more threatened by this phenomenon than by the government. But even during this hard period, the party has worked hard that today the common person in Pakistan has the anti-imperialist feeling. The people are openly talking about or against the IMF, World Bank. We are more or less able to work freely in the province of Sindh and Balochistan, in Pushtun areas, if they are Balochistan or in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, there is a very hardship for the party work is, as I mentioned, that the party is more threatened by the Islamic fanatic fundamentalist. And I think this phenomenon is not only in Pakistan, but even in the other countries, more or less, it does exist. Especially, you've seen the reports, even in Bangladesh, but that feeling is more in Pakistan. The other thing which the party has achieved, that now the common people who are always thinking the military to be something which you can't touch, that they are now blaming the military and saying openly that the reason why the common person things are not done because all the money is used by the military. So in conclusion, I will say that we are having a rather better conditions of working. The party comrades, particularly our Secretary General, Comrade Qazi, is able to address openly different meetings, not only of the party, but also participating in the meetings of different fronts. And we hope that with the course of time, if the party was given the time, that the main object, which was always from the beginning, the organization of workers and peasants, that we should strengthen them, organize them, so we can do in a better way the class struggle. That in the coming times, that the party will be able to organize itself and its fronts more effectively. I didn't want to repeat what Comrade Badsha has already mentioned, but we do have the common, and as I'm a doctor, so I will say we came from a common stem cell. We grow, yes, in different conditions, but we still consider the Indian Communist Party and the communist movement our mother party. We know that the partition of the country of the India on the basis of religion is still questionable, as it was against the basic principle and the basic definitions which we understand as communist of the nation and nationalities, because it was done on the basis of religion. But I hope that we still join our hands and support morally each other, and I will appeal to our comrades that as we are under the threat, or so many comrades were just killed on the basis of blasphemy, because it's a very very easy way to kill someone extrajudicially, that they do react and do issue the message of solidarities when such situations and such events of killings are happening in Pakistan. Thank you, comrades. Long live our unity and long live the world communist movement.
Thank you, Comrade Dr. Ayaz Mohammad, for your excellent speech. And we convey our revolutionary greetings to all comrades of Pakistan who are fighting against the common cause.
Thank you.
Now, Comrade G. Devarajan has tried to enter, but due to technical problem of internet, he could not. So I want to request our beloved friend, Comrade Madhav Kumar Nepal, senior leader of the Central Committee of Nepal Communist Party and former Prime Minister of Nepal, to deliver his speech. And we know in this period, in a very difficult situation, Nepal Communist Party has achieved some exemplary successes in history. So we intend to have some good experience from him. Comrade Madhav Kumar Nepal, I request you to deliver your speech.
Thank you, Dr.Susanta. Comrade Rashed Khan Menon, President, Workers' Party, Bangladesh. Dear comrades of Communist and Left parties of South Asia. Good morning, Shubha Prabhat, Namaskar, and red salute. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the comrades on the occasion of 100 years of Communist movement in South Asia and express gratitude to comrades of Workers' Party of Bangladesh for organizing this very important webinar. For all of us, and especially for the communist and left of South Asia, the historical, dialectical, and naturalistic analysis of the 100 years of our past is very important, not only to learn from our past struggles, but also to strengthen our movement at present and in the future. The paper by Comrade Badsha, General Secretary of Workers' Party, is an important document of history of Communist movement in South Asia. I would also like to remember October 17, 1920, when Comrade Yemen Roy and other comrades established the Communist Party of India. This also influenced the people's movement in Nepal and South Asia. The Communist movement in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh is obviously the legacy of that revolutionary beginnings, but it influenced and contributed Communist movement in the region, including Nepalese Communist movement. Actually, the Communist Party of Nepal was established in West Bengal, India, and the Indian Communist movement trained and nurtured the first generation of Nepalese communist leadership. The revolutionary struggle of Nepalese working class culminated into an organized and formal stage when they founded the Communist Party of Nepal in 1949. During the time when her southern neighbor, India, got independence from British colonialism in 1947, and when the world observed red flags furled over China in 1949. Influenced by the October Revolution, Chinese Revolution, and the Communist movement in India and socialist movement around the world, 5 comrades founded the Communist Party of Nepal in the leadership of Comrade Pushpalal Shrestha on April 22, 1949. It is a long time. Communist movement in South Asia celebrates 100 years of revolutionary struggles, and in Nepal, we also have the history of more than 70 years of communist movement. The communist movement in Nepal is the youngest one in South Asia. This is the history of division and unity, expansion and decline, and success and failure, as well as history of solidarity and cooperation, during which we learned many lessons. We are carrying forward the movement started by our predecessors. Comrades, now we are in a very critical conjuncture in the history of left and communist movement, as well as in the history of mankind. We are facing new challenges which should be dealt with creative application of Marxism, Leninism. The various crises we are facing today are the product of capitalism, a system that undermines the nature, humanity, and peace in its motives of profit. But as Marx pointed out long before, the contradictions and crises in capitalism is inevitable. Extreme nationalism, fascism, religious fundamentalism, racism, and communalism are tools of capitalism and imperialism today to suppress the people, divide the masses, and continue its hegemony. I see this pandemic of COVID-19 also as a part and parcel of capitalism and imperialism. We, the communist and left in South Asia, have a huge responsibility to protect the people and liberate them from all those extremism, crises, and pandemic. Though the financialization of capital is weak in South Asia, the political capitalism leading to assault on people's right and rise of austerity state putting peace and democracy in challenge has been the new liberal conjuncture of South Asia. Regional hegemony, religious fundamentalism, extremism, etc. are growing, creating more tension within communities, nations, and nationalities. This has not only challenged the peace, stability, and security in the region, but further aggravated the crisis on lives and livelihood of common masses, threatening the sovereignty of each nation. There is a continuous attempts of world superpowers to influence South Asian countries and to fulfill their strategic interest by bringing them into their fold. South Asian people are passing through a difficult time of social, cultural, economic, and political and health crisis. The pandemic of COVID-19 has hit hard working class people around the world. But now pandemic has reached to the community level in most of the South Asian countries. Yes, comrade, we are really at a critical juncture. Therefore, I fully support the theme of the webinar to fight against imperialism and communalism and for the secular and democratic South Asia should be the central task of communist and left in South Asia. Comrade, we recently organized the Wave Conference of South Asian Left and Communist Parties on September 30, 2020. Many of us were present in the conference organized by 21st Century Marxist Research Association of South Asia, but we have many of our old comrades there. and hope that we will be such a conference. I would like to highlight some of the points shared in this very important forum today. The first, it is unfortunate that pandemic has been used by right government to suppress and undermine the fundamental rights, ordinances, and acts against the peasants, workers, and migrants are released. These states are busy in creating tensions among the nations and divide the masses in order to divert the attention of people and hide their failure in dealing with pandemic. Therefore, we have to expose the failure of capitalist regime to deal with pandemic and how it has been destroying democracy, peace, and sovereignty. Second, it is urgent to mobilize our party, cadres, and actively participate in all works of prevention, control, distribution of safety items, and medicines to protect our people from coronavirus, other diseases, and hunger. It's time to prove that socialist approach is the right way to deal with many crises we are facing, including the health crisis. Similarly, in such difficult times, we have to reach to every people and show our socialist spirit. That's how we build the movement, organize people, and carry forward our struggle. This will also inculcate confidence among people, boost their morale, and strengthen their power to fight with pandemic. Third, we have learned that broader solidarity, cooperation, coordination, joint effort, and internationalism are vital in our fight against our enemy. Therefore, it is historically important for us to strengthen our regional solidarity and cooperation. Left and communist forces need to come together and unify our struggle. Fourth, there is no one-size-fits-all approach or path to socialism. Only by combining the basic tenets of Marxism with the ground realities and historical conditions and culture of countries and the call of the times, and by keeping exploring through practice, learning from past experiences, and making constant progress, can we turn the blueprint of socialism and communism into reality. All communist parties and left forces should continue to explore development paths suited to once-won national contests and enrich socialist theories and practices so as to advance the world socialist movement. Fifth, adapting Marxism to the evolving times is a huge responsibility of communists of our time. We must adopt a Marxist approach to observe, interpret, and lead the times, promote the development of Marxist theories through practice, and break new ground in advancing Marxism in the 21st century. Sixth, Comrade, the Web Conference of September 30, 2020, organized by 21st Century Marxist Research Association of South Asia and the International School of Marxism, Ayaz, Madhav School of Asia of Nepal, are two recent initiations to put our solidarity and cooperation in practice. This event has again brought us together. We need to develop a common platform to work together. This is another event where we have been participating in a single platform. We would like to continue those initiations and expect for collective leadership and ownership in such practices. Comrades, the challenges we are facing in the region are the manifestations of imperialist, hegemonic, and reactionary evil desire. In Nepal, our party is governing at federal, provincial, and local level with almost 2/3 majority. We are also moving forward with the slogan of Happy Nepali and Prosperous Nepal. Comrades, our constitution is a socialism-oriented constitution. This is great hope for South Asia, but we have a long way to go and we are facing multifarious challenges. In one side, we have the challenge of concluding the unification process, and on the other, we have to deal with many problems inside the party and also all the attacks from international and internal forces. We have the historical task of unifying the party, bringing all sides together, addressing the contradictions within the party, resolving it in a comradely way through the democratic centralist policy of Leninism and meeting the aspirations of the people and party cadres. We are hopeful that we will overcome the challenges and keep the communist movement moving ahead. Comrade, South Asia is the home of working class. We are resourceful. Unfortunately, almost 40% South Asians are living under poverty and hunger. This is due to that productive resources that which is not in the hand of producers. There is huge inequality among rich and poor. Youths of our region are migrating to other countries. And we have a huge responsibility of creating employment and build the nation utilizing this youth manpower. We have common problems, the common challenges. And we all are envisaging a socialist society, same destination. Therefore, it is important to formulate common minimum principles for broad united front and unity among us. We need people-centered and socialist approach to address those problems. I agree with Comrade Badsha paper to further strengthen internationalism, collectivism, and solidarity. We need to have a common platform. Let us continue to discuss on how we can concretize it. Thank you. Thank you again for organizing this very important webinar and inviting our party also. Long live international solidarity. Workers of the world unite. Thank you.
Thank you, Comrade Madhav Kumar Nepal, for your very valuable and excellent space. We are sharing the experience of Nepal Communist Party, and on behalf of Workers' Party of Bangladesh and people of Bangladesh, we wish you prosper and success. Thank you. Now, I am going to invite Comrade Sitaram Yechury, General Secretary of the Communist Party of India, Marxist. We know he is in the street, he is in the air, and he's doing fine in favor of people of not only India, but all the working class people of all over the world. Welcome, Comrade Sitaram Yechury, for your.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade, for the nice words you have given. I'm sorry, because of the conditions in India right now and big farmer struggle going on, I could join in only a little later, and also misunderstanding of time. Therefore, my apologies. To all those present there, Comrade Rashed Khan Menon, Comrade Badsha, the hosts, and Comrade Madhav Kumar Nepal, whom I've just heard fully what he contributed here, and all of the comrades that are present here. Thank you very much for inviting the CPIM, and thank you very much for hosting this very important discussion that will be mutually beneficial for all of us, and on a topic which I think each one of us is preoccupied in our own countries, in mobilizing our own people in the struggles on these issues against imperialism, against communalism, and for a secular democratic South Asia. Yes, this has indeed been a glorious century of struggles for the communist movement in South Asia. Yes, the Communist Party was established in 1920 in India. I mean, it had to be established outside because of the conditions of British rule. And then it took them, that generation, nearly 5 years to organize the various communist groups in various parts of India. That is in Calcutta, in Bombay, in Madras then, now Chennai, and in North India in Punjab. And that unification finally took place in 1925. So that is where the dispute comes in, as saying that when was it formed, 20 or 25? 25, it was formed, 20, it was formed 1920 in Tashkent. 1925, the unification took place on the soil of India. And since then, the Communist Party of India then, which included today's Pakistan and Bangladesh, very closely associated with the movement in Nepal and the struggle of the people in Nepal, and also with Sri Lanka. And in South Asia, this progressive trend began. Yes, it took us a lot of struggles, a lot of fights, a lot of repression, the conspiracy cases that the British government had imposed on the communists, ranging from the Peshawar conspiracies before the October Revolution from 1915, when the Ghadar Party, people came back to India from Northern America. And since then, the series of repressions steeled the communists in South Asia, and that gave rise to greater determination and struggles. But in the struggle for India's independence and independence of the subcontinent, three basic trends emerged, or three visions. What would be the future after British left of the political social formation in our part of the world? One trend spoke of the fact that South Asia, with its diversity, such an immense diversity you don't find anywhere else in the world, that can only be kept united and unified and people united only on the basis of a secular democratic political order, where there's equality to each element of this diversity. And this diversity was linguistic, was religious, was customs, was habits, was culture, every aspect of it. As opposed to this, the communists argued, yes, a social democratic parliamentary structure is inevitable, but we cannot stop there. The political independence we will win from the British will have to be transformed into the economic independence of our people. And that is possible only when we move forward towards socialism. So there was a complementarity in terms of the objective, but yet a very big difference on the basis of not building capitalism, developing capitalism here, but moving towards a socialist society. But as opposed to this, which in your part of the world as well, today's Bangladesh, and in today's India, is a very, very deeply ingrained virus, which formed the third vision, saying that the future of the subcontinent will be determined by the religious affiliations of its people. And this had a twin expression. One was the Muslim League founded by Jinnah at that point of time, which spoke of an Islamic Republic, and then the RSS that was formed in India in 1925 that spoke of the Hindu Rashtra. Since then, the battle between these three visions has continued, and today's politics in India, and to a large extent in the subcontinent, that is Pakistan and Bangladesh as well, is basically essentially the struggle between these three visions of what ought to be the character of our political social structures. And it is this that defined the battles even before independence. The huge, massive peasant movements that were launched is what integrated the exploited rural masses into the freedom movement. While the ruling classes, at that point of time, the Congress, was trying to unite the exploiting sections of the rural, feudalism at that point of time, the landlords, It was the communists that brought together the exploited peasantry into the national movement. And that forced the agenda to move towards land reforms, which in India, though we have it legally on paper, very seldom implemented, except under the left-rule governments and under special circumstances in Jammu and Kashmir. But overall, these struggles had impacted on the agenda for the future. And that was happening right from the formation of the Communist Party in 1920. In 1921, the communists were the first ones who raised the slogan of total independence from British rule. It took Mahatma Gandhi and the national movement another 9 years before they could come to this conclusion of Purna Swaraj. But the communists since then were always every year setting the agenda before the freedom struggle. This is a different matter. Those who aspired to be the ruling classes in the future after independence, they rejected it and they embarked on a path of development of capitalism. And this unfortunate partition of India and the communal divide has left behind a legacy that continues to fester wounds in all our countries. And particularly in India, today we see an extreme right-wing government which represented the third vision of converting the secular democratic republic into their conception of a rabidly intolerant, a fascistic Hindu or Hindutva Rashtra. Now that is the current political battle in which we are all engaged in. And then this battle, how it will shape up, will define the struggle against imperialism and communalism. Why? Because these communal forces who are in power in India today, controlling the government, have reduced India to be a subordinate ally of US imperialism. It's not only in economic matters, in strategic affairs, in military affairs. And now you have this squad that has been set up, that is with Japan, Australia, USA, and India. And this, we analyze and we think this is the prelude to the formation of a NATO-like formation in South Asia and US imperialism's control over the Indian Ocean. And there, it is essential for US imperialism today to ensure that no counter to its hegemony can ever arise like the former Soviet Union did. And there, the potential is that of the People's Republic of China. And that is what they would want to contain. It is no longer containment of China, but it's actually reducing China's influence in the world through all means: economic, trade wars, military maneuvers, and pressures. And India today, unfortunately, under this government, has become part of the US strategy. And therefore, the struggle against communalism and imperialism cannot be separated. As far as we are concerned in India, it has to be a joint struggle against these forces that are today embarking on this direction. And embarking in what time? When the whole world is grappling with this corona pandemic or COVID pandemic. And we know that the pandemic or the virus does not differentiate between individuals. You could be a capitalist or a worker or a peasant and a landlord. The virus will affect everybody. But the capacity to fight that virus, the internal capacity of the human body to resist this virus, that is much, much lower in the exploited sections. And that is why it is the poor in the world who are the worst affected. And that is what capitalism does, that it gives different capacities to different people. And the victims for this virus, mostly in almost all countries, have been the poorer and the more vulnerable sections. Now, instead of combating this, it is very clear from the experience of the capitalist countries versus the socialist countries, the superiority of socialism in terms of giving the basic public infrastructure and public health. That is actually been the backbone of their resistance. And that is why, whether it's China, Vietnam, or Cuba, they have been able to successfully contain, keep the number of deaths at the minimal possible level, and today are restarted and reopening their economic activities. And of the 24 countries, world's largest economies, the only economy that is registering a positive growth in the last 2 quarters has been China. India has been the worst. We have a minus 23.9% growth last quarter, and now on top of it comes another minus 7.5% GDP growth rate. That means you can understand the amount of misery that has been imposed in India, and likewise, except for Nepal, where our communist fraternal brothers are in the government. In all other countries, you find that the misery of the working people, the poor and the marginalized, has been, exponentially rising. Now, neither is the COVID tackling being adequately addressed by our governments in South Asia, except, of course, Nepal, as I said, and Comrade Madhav Nepal. I heard him fully, the manner in which he detailed many of these aspects, which I'm not therefore repeating, with which I entirely agree. And we have been agreeing on these things for many, many decades now. But neither are they tackling the pandemic the way it should be tackled. Neither are giving relief to the people with unemployment galloping. There are 15 crore people who lost their jobs since this pandemic and the lockdown began in India. And there's growing hunger. India rates today, and I must congratulate the people of Bangladesh, that they are ahead of India in many, many of these, not only human development indicators, but today even in economic indicators. But of course, because of the system of capitalism there, and also the feudal control that exists, there is increasing exploitation. But nevertheless, overall, per capita, if you see, we are doing much better, but India is much worse. And this is the general situation of global capitalism. Neoliberal trajectory that was adopted soon after the collapse of the Soviet Union, with the singular aim of maximization of profits, which is the logic of capitalism, as all of us know. With this singular aim, this globalization that took place under neoliberalism and these reforms of privatizing, loot of national assets, and increasing the profits of the rich in the world, of the capitalists in the world, the biggest corporates in the world. And even during this pandemic, the world's billionaires have become richer. In India today, the asset value of 50 top Indians has grown by 14% during this pandemic and the lockdown. So profit maximization with that itself, as Marx taught us, creates a situation of crisis for capitalism, which is what happened in 2008. And that crisis is that increasingly people have lesser and lesser power to purchase. And under capitalism, as all of us know, if what is produced is not sold, then neither profits can be made, nor growth can be made. Now, if they have to be sold, exploit the markets of the developing countries. And now in this process, further maximization of profit meant further reduction in the purchasing power in the hands of the people, which means the crisis continued to deepen. So neoliberalism has exposed its bankruptcy today. It has no solution for this crisis that first manifested globally in 2008. For the last 12 years, there's been no solution possible under neoliberalism. But under this situation, with maximization of profits, they continue the neoliberal order. In India, what we are finding is, in the name of self-reliance, it is actually self-subservience to foreign and domestic corporates and capital. And this is actually creating a situation of Indian economy becoming more and more dependent rather than self-sufficient. National assets are looted. Every single public sector is being privatized, right from railways to postal department, everything. All are core sectors in India. Iron, steel, cement, everything is being privatized. And this will maximize the profits for them. But the people grow poorer and poorer, which means capitalism is stuck in its own severe contradiction. And the only solution to this crisis and people's relief is socialism. But to stem the rising tide of discontent converting into a political challenge to capitalism, you find the growth of right-wing political forces all across the world, whether it was Trump in the USA or Bolsonaro in Brazil or Erdogan in Turkey or Modi in India. All of these represent trends whereby divide the people while we seek to unite the people in the situation of growing exploitation and discontent for mounting the political challenge of socialism. In order to disrupt that challenge, there is this divisive politics that is brought in, whether it's racism, Black Lives Matter. What was Trump's answer to that big movement? White power. Bolsonaro openly declares himself as a fascist in Brazil. Erdogan talks about the Turkish pride and back into compromising with religious fundamentalism. And in India, another type of religious fundamentalism, that is the communalism, that seeks to divide the people on the basis of their religion, mounting terrible attacks on human rights, democratic rights, civil liberties. And in this way, every dissent is treated as being anti-national. And in that sense, you have increasing authoritarianism, a totalitarian state that is emerging in India, destroying the secular democratic constitution. So the topic that you have given to discuss, the struggle against imperialism and communalism, and for a secular democratic South Asia, crucially depends on how we are able to harness our own people into struggles and mount this challenge. That is happening in its own way, but using this pandemic situation, this rightward shift is the only way in which neoliberalism can succeed to remain in control, and in order to resist this rightward shift. And that is where, as communists, as progressive forces, we have to understand, because many comrades in India often ask me that question. I'm sure all of you must also be facing that question from our younger generation and younger cadre. You say Communist Party was formed in 1920. Communist Party of China was formed in 1921. Now, if they can, hello, shall I continue or was there?
Yes,
Comrade Menon?
continue, please, Comrade, you continue. There is a
No, there was some, I thought, yeah, okay.
I will manage. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so this can, I mean, the question that my comrades, younger generation keep asking, in 21, in India or the subcontinent, you were born in 1920, 1 year earlier, but since 1949, China is a socialist country. Why you did not succeed in the subcontinent? Yes, here all of us have to seriously introspect our own history very briefly, because essence of Marxism, as Lenin has taught all of us, the whole world, all the communists in the world, the essence of Marxism is that by the millions, people are attracted to this ideology, this philosophy, because Lenin said this is the only one that combines being supremely scientific with being revolutionary. Now, this combination can be exercised by each one of us in our own countries on the basis of what Lenin again said, concrete analysis of concrete conditions. If this conditions are not properly understood, the analysis naturally would be wrong. Even if the conditions are properly understood, if the analysis is faulty, then there will be setbacks. That unfortunately happened to our movement in our subcontinent. To a large extent, you see the divisions that took place over assessments on what is the character of our ruling classes, on assessments of how to proceed towards our socialist revolution. We had that in India in a very, very sharp way, whether it will be the Russian path, one section of the communist movement moved towards that, whether it will be the Chinese path, another section of the communist movement moved towards that. And then those of us who said, no, it will be the Indian path on the basis of concrete analysis of concrete conditions. That is what formed the CPIM in 1964. So this history tells us that fundamental thing is the concrete analysis of concrete conditions, whereby combining being supremely scientific along with your revolutionary spirit and revolutionary, the liberating, emancipatory ideology of Marxism, both combined is how I think we learn from our own experiences. And from this, after learning from this to proceed forward would mean the unification of all diverse forces into a single strong struggles. It's not merely unification of parties, of sitting down and shaking hands and saying we are now one party. It is unifying them through the struggles from below. That unity situation will emerge. And it is through that process we'll have to build up this resistance. And in India, where you have these right-wing governments, the important aspect is to ensure that they do not control the government, and to ensure that controlling the government, they cannot destroy the secular democratic constitution as it exists in India today. But increasingly, it's only existing on paper, because every single independent authority of checks and balances under this constitution is severely being compromised, right from the parliament itself, the judiciary, the election commission, the independent investigative agencies like CBI, the enforcement department, they're all used as appendages. These two particularly as an appendage for the ruling party in the government today. And controlling the government, they're destroying this very constitution that this, and in replace it with their, as I said, rapidly intolerant, fascistic Hindutva Rashtra. And that is where we are in the midst of very big struggles. We had a very big nationwide general strike on 26th, 2 days ago. Right now, a huge farmers' protest actions are continuing against these retrograde laws that have been brought by this government, against privatization, against abolition of labor laws, against the virtual destruction of Indian agriculture and handing over to the corporates. These struggles are on in the conditions of the pandemic. There are serious risks involved, of course, but at the same time, it's a question of life and death. And as an Indian farmer said yesterday, either I die with corona or I die with hunger. The choice is what? If death is inevitable on either side, I'll fight death. I'll fight death despite corona's thing against these policies that are pushing me to death. Now, these struggles will have to be mounted in a much larger extent. What is required is classic working class and the peasantry, the exploited sections of the peasantry coming together. And that is the manner in which we are trying to seek in India. And I'm sure all of us in our own conditions, in our own countries, are similarly doing it. Well, of course, the only exception being in Nepal, the only place in the subcontinent or in South Asia, I mean, not South Asia, subcontinent definitely, where the Communist Party is in control of the government. So therefore, I think we'll have to carry these struggles forward. And therefore, I'll thank the Workers' Party of Bangladesh for taking this initiative. We had met earlier when the CPIM organized a similar thing in Cochin some years ago, but these have to be more frequently done. These have to be more frequently done, and thank you very much for having organized this, and I hope we'll be meeting again. Corona will be able to successfully fight. Till the vaccine comes, please take care and maintain all the precautions. And after that, we'll be able to physically also meet, but at least in this manner, we should continue to interact. So thank you. Thank you, comrades Rashid Khan Menon and Badsha. And thank you all of the comrades who have been part of this interaction. My revolutionary greetings and salutes to all of you.
Thank you, Comrade Sitaram Yechury, for your excellent speech and explanation of the concrete situation of South Asia and global issues. You have mentioned the design and onslaught of neoliberal policy over South Asia, and also mentioned the incapability of capitalism to combat the crisis, systemic crisis, what they are now facing. So that is the very important time for the communist and the progressive forces all over the world to be united, to have the common platform, to go ahead, to be united, to fight for the people. Thank you very much for your valuable speech.
Thank you.
Now, I want to inform you, Comrade G. Devarajan, lately he has entered into the connection. So I will invite him to deliver his speech. And the comrades from Sri Lanka, we hoped he will connect, but unfortunately still he is not in the line. So Comrade Madhav Kumar Nepal asked me, I want to tell him, we will okay, I'm continuing. So I'm inviting Comrade G. Devarajan, Secretary, Central Committee, and in charge of International Affairs, All India Forward Bloc, to deliver its speech. Comrade G. Devarajan.
Thank you, Comrade. Thank you, all the senior leaders of the communist and socialist movement of South Asia. And on behalf of our party, the All India Forward Bloc, the party founded by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, I am taking this opportunity to congratulate the Workers' Party of Bangladesh for organizing an important interaction on the occasion of the 100 years of communist movement in India, on the topic of the struggle against imperialism and communism for a secular democratic South Asia. Indeed, Comrade Sitaram, Yechury, General Secretary of Communist Party of India, Marxist, elaborately explained about the subjective conditions prevailing in India and other neighboring countries. So it is very important that because of this COVID protocol and all, we are unable to meet physically. But by using all these modern facilities and technology, we are meeting regularly. We are interacting regularly. We are communicating each other and sharing our views, our experiences. So I think this webinar also such an exercise to share some of our common concern regarding each country's conditions, situations, and importance of joint struggle. Comrade Sitaram Yechury has mentioned here that in India we are in the midst of a farmer struggle. In fact, 26th of this month, 10 central trade unions all the major trade unions have observed one-day general strike against the anti-labor policies of the present-day government. The government uh, of the day in India, they are hell-bent. They are hell-bent in implementing all neoliberal policies, and they are satiating the interest of the domestic and international corporates. And the character of the government also, Comrade Sitaram Yechury well explained, and all the comrades those who are present here also know that the communal in character, and in principle they are in favor of all these corporate and finance capitalists. So in order to satisfy their boast, so they are implementing such type of laws and such type of legislation they are making. So this farmers strike also for changing very important three agricultural legislations. In fact, many of the legislations were pre-independent era, no doubt. The Agriculture Essential Commodities Act, the Agriculture Market, the Agriculture Produce Price, all these bills are late 1928, 1930 during the time of British. So now they have amended. It is necessary that it should be amended in the wake of changing situations. But when you are going to amend the laws, it must be in favor of the farmer, and it must be in favor of the workers. But in the name of ease of doing business, the ruling clique is amending all these laws in favor of the corporates. So that is why these farmers are also in the street for changing these three farm laws. The Essential Commodities Act, for example, I am not elaborating the other, the Essential Commodities Act, which prevent the corporates to hoard food items in their godowns. But now the government of India has amended that Essential Commodities Act. Now there will be no restriction. Any corporate or any wholesaler can hoard as much as possible food grains in his warehouses or godowns. While doing so, they can control the market. So the price will also, the prices of the food grains will also go up, will go up. Then the market will be controlled by them. But the benefit will not come to the producers, the farmers, the real annadada of India. So they are losing their entire income, and their lands are being grabbed by the corporates because contract farming has been started in India. So there is no other way out. The farmers have come to Delhi, but the government tried to stop them in the border. So they are agitating, and you know that there was a slogan in India that Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, coined by Lal Bahadur Shastri. So Kisan also needed, and the Jawan is needed for protecting our boundaries. But yesterday, what we have seen in Delhi, the government is using Jawans against the Kisan. So, like enemies, they are using the police, military, and all paramilitary forces against these poor peasants. So, this also exposes the real face of the current government of India. So, the fight is going on against the government policies by the joint platform of workers and peasants. And I hope that this movement will take its own momentum, and it will come to as a real people's movement for a positive change in India. Comrade, one thing I would like to mention here on the basis of the subject. See, earlier the imperialist forces, they used to capture the land or they attacked the other countries to expand their boundaries and to control the other countries. But now there is no need of capturing the land. Now they are capturing the governments. So if by using new mechanizations, they used to capture the government, and through that government they are implementing their policies by way of extending some financial assistance through World Bank or IMF or any other international funding agencies. Uh, they will extend some sort of assistance. By doing so, they will control the government. So the new system of imperialist intrusion is coming entire these developing countries. Our South Asia is also not different from such type of nations. That is why these type of legislations are being passed. That is why this type of policies are being implemented by the government. That is why the government is neglecting the working class and the farmers. And another feature of this present day government is that the rabid communism. See the way they are, there also they are using these legislations. Now a point of discussion is the Citizenship Amendment Act they have enacted or amended in India. That also we can see that such a biased legislation a democratic secular country can never expect, never imagine that except Muslims, those who are came from different countries, in particular period in India, they will be given citizenship, but Muslims will not be given. Such a discriminatory legislation, how a secular country can enact? But by using the brute majority they got in the parliament, they are ignoring the opposition words, opposition voices. Rather, they are suppressing the opposition voices and enacting the laws one by one and making this country as a theocratic country, a secular country. They are transforming as a theocratic one. So the working class and peasants movement, the joint movement being supported by youngsters, students, women, and all other sections of the society also join, gradually joining this movement. Because one side they are implementing the imperialist policies, satiating the interest of the corporates. Secondly, they are destroying the secular constitution of India. And I think that these both these characters we can see in almost all the South Asian countries in a different manner. We can see such forces are also active in almost all these countries, whether it is in Nepal or Bangladesh or Pakistan or Sri Lanka. Wherever you can see such forces are there. If they get a chance to rule, then definitely they will go for their own agenda. That is what is happening in our country, in India also. It is very much visible and we are experiencing that. So only thing that Comrade Sitaram, I hope that he is here. The only problem is that you see, Government of India has recognized 11 central trade unions on the basis of their membership, on the basis of their influence, and on the basis of their involvement in labor activities. Except two or three, all the central trade unions are indirectly and directly related to the left parties, either the Communist Party of India or the Communist Party of India Marxist, or All India Forward Bloc, or Revolutionary Socialist Party, or SUCI Communist, or CPI-ML, all these left-oriented political parties. So peasants are also joining, workers also joining. Whenever you give a call for the peasants and workers movement, people are overwhelmingly participating in this movement. But when their situation comes as for election, we are unable to transform these people's support into votes. whether it is Uttar Pradesh or Madhya Pradesh, wherever it may be, India's different states. These parties are unable to transform. These people support, these workers support, these present support into votes. So somewhere we are missing the connection, this parliamentary politics and the people's movement. So a thorough introspection is also needed. How to connect these people resentment with this parliamentary politics and how we can utilize these people resentment for the growth of the left movement in India. And of course, there are a number of communist parties are also working in India. I think that I may be excused by the senior leaders that when you are celebrating 100 years or 95 years, whatever it may be, 95 communist parties are also here in different names. Whether it is some words in the bracket they are using, 95 communist parties are also. So some joint platform we are making, sometimes we are using, sometimes we are each other, they are abusing, fighting each other, sometimes they are jointly doing. But a concerted effort is needed to make a working platform for sharing experiences or getting information for proper communication. Such type of one platform is needed. I think that is the need of the hour, what I can. But even then, the frontal organizations are meeting regularly. They are organizing joint programs, even interacting each other, and we are also interacting other political parties. And even in this situation, also we are regularly interacting. So this has to be continued. And of course, All India Forward Group will also take its own responsibility for making such a platform or such a regular interactions, which is need of the hour. And the struggle against these imperialist machinations and this communal politics is to be stopped or checked and must be prevented. And it can be prevented only through relentless working class movement, irrespective of the color of the political parties and flag. We have to bring almost all secular democratic forces together, along with the progressive section of the society. We can fight against these social evils, no doubt. And we will also join with you. And once again, I congratulate the Workers' Party of Bangladesh, and I'm grateful to Workers' Party of Bangladesh for organizing such a webinar and inviting almost all the senior leaders of South Asia, of the left and communist movement for this important webinar. And I hope that from this webinar, we will be getting more information and concrete suggestions will also emerge how to move further, and it will definitely facilitate our efforts to strengthen our movement. Thank you very much. Once again, I congratulate this party of Comrade. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Comrade G. Devarajan, for your valuable speech and some important suggestions depending on the concrete aspect, concrete situation of the South Asia. And surely we need a very broadest possible unity or unity of all progressive forces, all left forces and communists to combat the very crucial enemy of neoliberalism and fundamental rightist forces. So thank you very much for joining, and I beg apology not to be connected earlier. Thank you very much. Now, we actually expected Comrade from Sri Lanka would join the webinar, but still he could not. Probably there is a problem in connectivity. So I request Comrade Rashed Khan Menon, the President of Workers' Party of Bangladesh, who is presiding over the webinar, to conclude the webinar through his concluding and summarizing speech. Comrade Rashed Khan Menon.
Thank you very much, Dr.Susanta. And I thank all the participants from India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, we miss the India, Pakistan, and Nepal. Unfortunately, we miss Sri Lanka, but I don't know. I hope that they would join even at the last moment. But now we are at the end of our webinar. I particularly thank Dr. Ayaz, who joined us from London, and at a time which is the time difference is too much, and he had to forego his sleep probably to join this.
Oh, you are most welcome, sir, dear.
Okay, and we are happy to learn from Comrade Ayaz that the Communist Party of Pakistan, with Kaji at the spearhead, as leading now struggles in Pakistan. Now in Pakistan, we are saying
मैं
that
अभी थोड़ी देर में करता हूँ आपको। रशीद खान मैनन कंक्लूड कर रहा है, तो उस समय वो रिक्वेस्ट किया कि उधर रहने के लिए मुझे, क्योंकि बिगिनिंग में नहीं था। हाँ, मैं भी करता हूँ।
Make much more success in that. And thank you very much, Comrade Madhav from Nepal, who is with us from the very beginning. And we hope that their experience in running the government in Nepal would help us in our struggle against, because they have made their constitution secular one, but I understand that the threat of the religious fundamentalism and communalism is still there. And at the behest of the royalists, they would always try to undo the constitutional provisions of Nepal. And we are very happy to learn that the communists are now in the majority in both in central, provincial, and also in local governments. And they are also advancing in their social development programs also. And I particularly thank both the comrades of India, Comrade Sitaram, Yechury, and Comrade Devarajan, because they are having a big struggle. Just at the moment, the thousands of businesses are in the neighborhood of Delhi. They are continuing their struggle for last 3 or 4 days probably, and they have conquered all the obstacles and come to the neighborhood of Delhi. And as I understood from Comrade Sitaram's saying that the Home Minister of India is now going to meet them, and they would have to also be there probably for that. And thank you very much, Comrade Devarajan, though you could not connect earlier, but you made a very concrete statement of the situation, particularly about the rise of the communal and the division on the basis of religion in Indian politics, in Indian whole political arena, about the CA and the NRC, and also the rise of Hindutva in India. And also Comrade Sitaram Yechury for his elaborate explanation of how the imperialists are trying to put their foot in this area. Already they have put their foot in this area by coalescing with the ruling classes of India, ruling party of India, but now they are trying furthermore to have their presence in the Indo-Pacific area and forcing us to join in their strategy. Already India has made some agreements with them, but they have also come to Bangladesh. They have also pressurized Bangladesh. They are also pressurizing Sri Lanka. And in this way, as Comrade Sitaram has said, that they are not only, this is not only for containment of China, but for reducing the influence of China throughout the world, which they earned through their system of socialist gains in their own country. And last but not least, the most important part of the whole is that we should continue this interaction because of the fact that the struggle is common, and we should continue this interaction. Workers' Party of Bangladesh took this chance of this commemoration of the centenary of the communist movement in India. Nepal recently held also a seminar under the leadership of Comrade Madhav from Nepal about the South Asian situation, about the pandemic, and other issues. And I hope that now the Communist Party of India, Marxist, and the Forward Bloc, All India Forward Bloc, you took the lead in this area, because in recent years, they earned very rich experiences, which is very important for us. In Bangladesh, we are now facing a situation which is a bit complicated one. You know, the government in power is Awami League, with whom we are in alliance. And our main aim was to fight the religion fundamentalist forces out of the power which they took during the BNP Jamaat regime. But now we are seeing that because of their compromising attitude and compromising policy, the Islamic forces again, they have started creating many of the demands, and they are demanding many things which is absolutely against the culture and history of Bangladesh. Like they are opposing even the sculpture of Bangabandhu, who is the father of the nation, even in this period of his and it is not against Sheikh Mujib or his sculpture, it is against our liberation and the spirit of liberation in Bangladesh. So we are again facing here in Bangladesh, and also the neoliberal policy has created a big gap in our country, in our economy. The rich and poor has become, even in this pandemic, when the poor people or the lower strata people, they have gone to about 40% of the below the poverty level. There are people who earn lots of money and now competing with China to become millionaires in the world stage. So it is very important that we should make a common platform for this struggle. And I hope all the parties who are present here would take the initiative, and Workers' Party of Bangladesh would definitely put their effort in doing that. I again thank you very much, particularly Comrade Devarajan and Comrade Sitaram Yechury, because you have so much busy schedule about this prison struggle that is going on. And also Comrade Madhav from Nepal, who sat all through the webinar and made a very valuable speech.